Hey guys, how's it going? I wanted to talk a little bit today about burnout and how I personally deal with it. Or I should say, I want to make clear that burning out is not something that is a product of you not enjoying what you do or not being happy. There aren't any underlining, in my opinion, factors that play into it other than just truly being mentally tired. And I think there are things that contribute to it, but none that should make you think that you're on the wrong path or that you're perhaps not doing something you love, because that couldn't be further from the truth in my case. So I want to explain a little bit about what I've been going through. So as I've described, the business growth has been fairly substantial over the past few months for me. Should also add in that I'm also building a home in Arizona. There's a lot of underlining stuff, good stuff going on in my life, but just a lot of things: selling a home, building a home, business growth, getting married this year. There's a whole lot of verbs that are happening or things that are currently in play, but nothing that is done, nothing that is set in stone. It's building, planning, growing, like all of these currently happening events. And it's been a ton to juggle. And try to, as one person, keep straight within your mind. And I have found myself over the past few weeks truly in a burnt out state of mind. And how I've been dealing with it, or how I'm now dealing with it, how I wasn't at the time, is daily, if not 2 times a day, meditation. It's super nice to have that time of day where you can just sit back, lay down, sit down, whatever you do, and just clear your mind. And for me, it's putting a focus on clarity, because there is so much happening in the future. In my meditations, I've been focusing or going into it with a goal of just having day-to-day clarity and what I want to get done today. And if it's a night meditation, just what I want to get done tomorrow, and kind of going back to the roots of just focusing on the day-to-day. I think when you're early on in your journey or just in a great headspace, you're really going to focus on the day-to-day, because just one day at a time, laying a better brick today than you laid yesterday, and laying a better brick tomorrow than you're going to lay today. And just focusing on that is how you truly grow. It's how you can manifest and build a future that today you couldn't imagine. And I think when it comes to having a lot on your plate, or when things really start to stack up and you're just running at 100 miles per hour every single day and not, I guess, executing on the things, like not seeing things through. Like I said, if everything is, an ing word and it's currently happening, it can get very difficult to stay within that day-to-day realm and instead look towards the future and look towards, planning on these things. And then you start to get wrapped up, or at least this is for me. I started to get really wrapped up in, I just have to, get to this point by this date, or then I have to get to, and really worrying about things that are, months in advance. And when I started mixing, months in advance worries or concerns or things that I know in every fiber of my being is pointless to think about today, and mixing that with what I'm trying to get done day to day as I'm doing all these onboardings and doing, just the day-to-day client work, just et cetera, day-to-day life. When I was kind of mixing those together, then as I mentioned previously, I also wasn't focusing on my health really anymore. I wasn't getting to the gym, wasn't eating healthy. All of those things combining kind of took me into this spiral and down this rabbit hole. And I just continued to go deeper and deeper into it. I wasn't really doing anything to get out of it. I was kind of letting one thing cycle into the next, and then it would just be this never-ending loop. And, a few weeks in, realized, man, I'm really burnt out. Like mentally, I'm just exhausted. I'm trying to, plan for today. I'm trying to plan for tomorrow. I'm trying to plan for 6 months from now, trying to think of what's going to happen a year from now. All of those things individually are tremendous to do. You need some sort of balance on that. For me, when all of that starts compounding, I basically want everything figured out today. And obviously that is physically impossible. It's literally impossible. That pretty much led to, me getting in a very burnt out mindset. It led to me not executing the way that I wanted to with clients, not like really like having, the above and beyond ideas, not, it really forced me to take a step back with the vision with the business and stuff like that, because now my vision was being put towards these events that are going to be taking place in the future. All good, but just basically it allowed, I don't want to say allow or force, but it took me from looking at all of these events and all these things that are happening that are such positives and beginning to look at them from a negative perspective and truly almost like trying to rush them and look down at them and just wanting them to be done, even though they're these wonderful things that I should be looking forward to and should be getting excited for. So that's pretty much what I wanted to chat about here quickly with all of you is just a little bit of what I've been going through in terms of burnout, what burnout looks like to me. I'm sure that there are a lot of you out there who can relate. So as I said, what really has been helping me is that 1 to 2 meditations a day, really with a focus and sense on clarity and trying to, figure out, hey, just one day at a time, like what do you really want? What are the things that you're going after? And let's just, go back to laying brick by brick by brick, and let's just keep building because that's what got you here. So that's been a huge help. And I would say also just the realization of put yourself back in control, because that's what will negate a lot of that overwhelmed feeling. For me, I don't even know if I've used that word yet, but that's what all of that, this cycle and all of this stuff going on, it led for me to feel very overwhelmed. And feeling overwhelmed isn't good for anyone. An overwhelming feeling is a very, I've never really heard it used unless you're overwhelmed with happiness, but being overwhelmed in stress sense is certainly always a detriment. And I got very overwhelmed, and I basically have kind of tied that back to the fact that I was overwhelmed because there was a lot that I felt was out of my control, which I'm an individual who really focuses on structured schedules, routines, always being in control of my day-to-day. And when I felt that slip away with all of this stuff that's currently happening and in progress, it led to me feeling overwhelmed because I felt like I was no longer in control. I felt like that basically I was kind of a puppet to all of the stuff that's going on, and I was just going through the motions, this and that. And that was all just in my head. There was nothing that changed. There was nothing that really flipped or anything other than the fact of just how I thought about it. So I would say that if you are feeling overwhelmed and it's leading to stress or anxiety or anything, it's a very dangerous road to start going down, because if you don't build yourself out of it, it can lead to a lot of bad habits and really put you in a funk for a while. So kind of going back to the meditation and stuff like that, and I just focused on, clarity day to day. What are the things that I want? What are the things that I can control today? And then, really going back to separating, which sounds so simple, but separating, what are the things I can control to what are the things that I cannot, and not giving any attention to the latter, and just focusing on day to day, what can I do to ensure that everything goes off, as smoothly as I can make it happen. And yeah, it has helped tremendously. Day to day, I can feel myself, continuing to build out of it and just get that strength, that mindset, that drive back. And I'm truly back in a mindset now where I'm just ready to, crush every single day. And I know that it's truly only the beginning, which is the most exciting part, because throughout this time, I'm still building, still learning, still being a product of improvement. And what I really mean by that is like every single day, still, focusing on being a learner first. And that never changed throughout this whole, process. And then let's just say, a month or two of not what is in my mind to be, really moving forward, growing, but instead just building the foundation and putting a positive on all this is, I've been building a foundation now of just knowledge and stuff that, I hadn't been implementing or hadn't been doing or just hadn't been thinking of before, that now I can apply to it. And I hope you can kind of just tell through even the way that I'm describing it, how excited I am for that next chapter to now start. And I think I'll conclude with that. No matter what you're kind of going through, no matter what, if you're experiencing burnout, if you're just tired, if you know what your body needs, really, really self-awareness is the key here, is figuring out, why do you feel this way? And I've obviously had this happen a few times throughout my career. And over time, I've learned like what are the things that lead to me burning out. More times than not, it's the things that I described. It's feeling overwhelmed. It's having a whole lot of things in the pipeline that aren't necessarily here today, which leads to that cycle. And so I would say self-awareness is going to be key in avoiding or getting out of burnout. I wish I would have, hindsight's 2020, done a better job of, seeing that coming, but I kind of let myself get cycled into it. But now for the next time, I'll feel these things coming on and have, this stuff to look at and watch, and the keys that I've kind of given to myself. And also over time, my burnouts are a lot shorter than they have been in the past too. When it does happen, I'm able to work myself out of it a lot quicker, which is tremendous. And burning out sometimes can maybe be to some people as, a word of, well, then you're not doing what you should be doing, or you're not doing something you love, like I said earlier, but I don't believe that to be the case. I'm still laying the bricks, once I kind of get out of that headspace or burnout phase or whatever you want to call it. I've really noticed how much good is still being done during it, which I can say wasn't the case earlier on in my career. If I would ever experience any sort of, sometimes you kind of tap out and just need to do nothing for a while. I've learned, over these past, say, 2 to 3 times that it's happened, I'm much higher functioning while burnt out. I was going to say I'm a much higher functioning burnout, but that just sounds odd. But nonetheless, so that's just kind of what I wanted to chat about today. I wanted to talk about my experiences with burnout, how I get into it, what I kind of do during it, how I still navigate it, because obviously the work doesn't go away, and then how I eventually build out of it. And wanted to let everyone who's watching this know that, as I've now mentioned a few times, but I feel like I really can't hone in on enough, that burnout is not something to make you rethink, am I doing things wrong? Do I really not love what I'm doing? Or I couldn't disagree with that more. And I personally think it couldn't be further from the truth. For me, it's strictly when I let myself get very overwhelmed and have a lot of things on my plate, most always actually things in the future, things that I can't, solve today. And I let that, get the best of me. I let it cycle through my head. And then over time, it really becomes overwhelming, which takes me into a burnout phase. But it has nothing to do with my enjoyment for what I do. It has nothing to do with the things going on in life. It's strictly a mindset thing. And I want to let all of you know that the more self-aware that you can be, to know why you're in it, to know how to get out of it, is what's going to be crucial to get you back and crushing it. So thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I tremendously appreciate it, and have a great day today.